Good afternoon to you all, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the sunrise safari. Oh, no, it's the sunset safari, that's what it is. The heat has addled my brain. My name is Jamie. I have Tebs on camera with me this afternoon, and please forgive me for having to prise myself off the steering wheel where I had melted onto it. It's 45 degrees in the shade. That's 109 degrees Fahrenheit at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So please forgive us for the hour late start. It feels a little bit like being inside an oven. It really is unbelievably hot, and it's an incredibly crushing dry heat. Mr. Henry will possibly, probably, most likely, definitely not be joining us for this afternoon's sunset safari. He has discovered that his constitution is not quite up to this level of heat. So you will have the pleasure of my company for as long as I can stand it, at which point I will park off in the shade and slowly drip off the seat. But please join us on our live safari, and don't forget to please send through your questions so that I have plenty to talk about on this blisteringly hot afternoon. You can do that on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. And let us have a wonderfully enjoyable afternoon all together in as many shade patches as I can find. I think I'm going to accelerate through the sun to each shade patch. We'll stop and see what we can find to talk about there. Oh wow, it's hot. Bob, why didn't we think, actually FC, why didn't we think of that? Why did we not set up a poolside chat? So Bob suggested that since there's no air conditioning, it might be cooler outside in the shade. I have to be honest, Bob, there is one room that WildEarth inhabits that has air conditioning. That is Final Control. How is it in there, Final Control? Is it lovely? I know how it is because I spent the last hour in there. It was glorious, but it did mean that I forgot how hot it was outside. It really is really very, very hot. But I think a poolside chat might have been the way forward. Genevieve, absolutely. In fact, I've found myself squinting more and more over the last few days, and today it's been absolutely at its worst. So Genevieve wanted to know whether or not we get a lot of sand glare off, or glare off the sand from the sun. And it reminds you of the snow glare that you get. Yes, we do. It is phenomenally bright out here. I've just done a little circuit to see what's around. Checked around quarantine. I'm now approaching the pan. I'm going to make my way towards Gallagher Waterhole. Now this morning we found Tingana on Arathusa, as well as the Investec pack of wild dogs. My suspicion, and the reason that I'm not rushing off back there just at the moment, first of all, they're going to be incredibly flat, and second of all, they're going to be in the thickest patch of shade that they can possibly find. And I know both of those drainage lines in which those animals disappeared particularly well. And from experience, I actually don't think we're going to be able to get vehicles in to see them. That being said, I also don't want to get too far from home in case our equipment starts to overheat, possibly our cameraman starts to overheat, or indeed your presenter. All of these are distinctive possibilities. And since you've been watching the Djuma Dam camera for the last... Oh, let's have a look at Pete. See if we can find a patch of shade and have a look at Peter the hippo. He's out and about. I'm sure that many of you have been watching the Djuma Dam camera, and I know that a lot of people have been worrying about the situation and the fact that it is not being pumped. And that has resulted in a couple of emails that have been sent through to the lodge. Please, everybody understand that the lodge cares, and the people who are in charge of these things care just as much as we do about the state of the animals and the fact that there is this drought. It is an incredibly difficult situation. They have posted updates as to what is happening with this dam. Please be understanding, or give them some understanding in that respect. Hello, Peter. I think he's decided he's tired of lying in mud. Now, Peter is one of the reasons. We are hoping that with this pan being slightly dry that he will start to move off. He is causing cracks within the pan wall itself, which in turn is creating an incredible wastage of water, which compromises all of the animals out here, not least including himself. So we're hoping that this will encourage him to move to another dam. You can see the oxpecker's having a field day on his back. Cheryl, at the moment they are not pumping water into the dam, and the reason behind that is because the pan wall is actually damaged, which in turn is wasting hundreds of liters or gallons of water a day. So that is why they are not pumping the dam wall at the moment. And obviously with this particular hippo around, he's making it very difficult for repair teams to come in and fix the wall. So there is a crack in it, it is causing damage, and it is causing a huge amount of water wastage. Please also, of course, bear in mind, water has to come from somewhere. The fact that it comes from underground, we are incredibly lucky to have those underground water sources, but they are not infinite. And at some point, the underground, unless we get some rain coming through the area, at some point, the water table below the ground will run out. So we cannot, it would be irresponsible at this point for the pan to be pumped. And I'm going to take you across now, although this looks incredibly bleak and it is hard to watch. You will be joining me as I drive around, and I will take you across to the pan on the other side of the lodge, Gallagher Waterhole, that is pumped once every 2 days, just to show you that the animals are not completely without options in terms of drinking water. And thank you to all of you, oh my word, brain fried. Thank you to all of you for your incredible understanding and acknowledgement of the fact that we are sending out this drive. If I get to the point at which I feel as though Tebs and myself can no longer function, and it is as much Tebs' decision as it is mine, he is equally involved in this, I will cut the drive short. At the moment, as I'm sure many of you know, we are working on a skeleton crew. So if Tebs and myself, for example, find ourselves coming down with heat exhaustion or dehydration and unable to work tomorrow, it puts pressure on the rest of the team as well and compromises us for future drives. So if I feel as though it is getting a bit much, and it might get to that point, because I'm actually genuinely, I had forgotten how hot it was, or maybe I just didn't realize how hot it was out here. It really is boiling. I gave myself a thorough hosing down before I left. I was soaking. I'm now completely dry, bone dry. And I think also it's not just the heat, it's the oppressive dryness of this entire deal. I can feel my lips starting to crack, and my eyeballs are getting hot. And it's not just Tebs and myself, it's also the equipment on the back of the vehicle. So if we start to get warnings from the camera as well, then we will have to shut the show down. But thank you everybody for your understanding, we do appreciate it. We just want to let you know that we're not slacking off. Now Diane, thank you for your message that we're amazing. I don't think we are. Yes, lodges do drives in heat like this with their guests. They generally go out sort of at roughly the same time we've gone out. It will be up to the guests themselves. And some of you watching the Djuma Dam camera may have heard the guests that we're playing in the swimming pool. I think that they've decided not to go out this afternoon. But the Cheetah Plains guys, I have heard them on the radio. So they have gone out. They operate in a slightly different fashion, but yes, if your guests want to go out, you can advise them against it. You can give them lots of water, but the difference is that you can stop in the shade, let the vehicle cool down, let yourselves cool down, have a bit of a chat, have a nice drink of cold water from the cooler box. Subtly different, and also not carrying very expensive camera equipment on the back and broadcasting equipment. And I must be honest, that also adds to our heat. The machinery at the back does exude heat, as does the vehicle. So at the moment, Tebs and I are wrapped in our own little insulated box, or it certainly feels that way anyway. Wants to know whether we would be able to move Peter to another dam. Hopefully he's going to start making his way on his own. Beyond that, it becomes a decision that is not ours. It is a very dangerous process. Let me rephrase that. It is not a dangerous process. It is a very complex process, moving an animal. You need vets on call, on standby. And bear in mind, of course, that Peter is not the only hippo in this position, as we saw with that hippo in Professor Dam. Sorry, girl. I actually feel quite bad making any animal move out of its shady spot at the moment. And they appear to be far better adapted to dealing with this heat than we are. I think this must be a record, at least definitely since I've been working here. 45 degrees, 109 degrees Fahrenheit at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm pretty sure that's a record. And what that does mean is that is the temperature in the shade. The real field temperature is usually about at least 3 or 4 degrees hotter. So we're starting to get close up to 48 in terms of what we're feeling. We'll take a trip around to Galago Pan. Let's see what's happening there. Now, David, I know that the lodge mentioned that pan. James and Brian said that they saw it. I haven't yet to see it. I'll go and have a look for it now. I'd be happy to show you. I'm taking you to see the pan that's on the other side of the lodge. You guys are all familiar with it. Karula loves this spot. It's the Galago waterhole. But I'd be more than happy to take you across to where that particular pan is. I just have to work out where it is exactly. It must be on the road down between Quarantine and the lodge. And I am going to apparently knock the antenna down. That wasn't where I was going with that sentence. I'm going to say I'm going to take regular breaks to continue to drink water. Tebs will be doing the same, so if the camera or all of a sudden doesn't move, it's because Tebs is having a drink. And I'm pretty sure if I put a tea bag in this, we could make tea. Ashley, you want to know what the knock-on effect is going to be. And that's actually, the answer to that is quite complex. First of all, when we first get the rains, we've got to really hope that it doesn't come in one big whoosh. So 100 mils in a day is going to be equally disastrous. Well, maybe not equally as disastrous, but fairly disastrous for all of us. I'm looking for a patch of shade to stop at the Gallagher Pan. There isn't one. In which case we're going to be doing a drive-by. I'm not stopping the car in the sun. So Ashley, the reason I say that in terms of the rain arriving is because there is no cover at all. There's some buffaloes here at the pan, just to show you that there is water. We will not be stopping. This is where they are congregating at the moment. So because a lot of the grass has dried off and the ground has become very hard in places and compacted, what's going to happen is with a big rainfall, it's going to wash a great deal of the topsoil away. It's because there's not enough roots to hold some of that topsoil in place. So what it equals is considerable erosion possibilities, as well as the possibility that that topsoil that's been developing for years and years and years could get washed away, and then has to start developing the ideal and going through the plant succession levels that it needs to, that it has gone through in the previous years. In terms of the knock-on effect for the animals, it depends on what happens in the next few months. I would say yes, we're likely to see less babies or less surviving babies. I think there's a possibility of a couple of stillbirths. The mother's bodies will not necessarily be able to get the nutrition levels that they need in order to survive some kind of, or to survive a pregnancy. So a lot of them will be either stillborns or will not fall pregnant at all. The predators, however, will flourish. This is a time when the big cats, wild dogs, and especially hyenas have things, I wouldn't say easy, because they still have to go out looking. It's still hot and it's still dry, but they can get a lot of the moisture that they need. They're quite adapted to getting moisture that they need from their prey, certainly in the case of leopards and cheetah. But they will also have far more access to regular meals. And the prey is forced around a much smaller area, which means they don't have to move as far afield in order to go hunting. So by that I mean prey species will be more concentrated around water sources and essentially forced to use the same spots to go and drink. So the predators will increase. The knock-on effect from that, though, is that then the herbivores decrease in terms of their population, and eventually you'll see a possible dip in the predator population as well. It always reflects, but it takes maybe a year or two for that reflection to follow through, if that makes the trajectory that predators versus prey will have. The plant life should recover, but as I said, a lot of the grass has died off. Some of the hardier species will start to flourish again. But this ecosystem has survived. Guys, I really appreciate the concern that you're sending through. Actually, judging judging what Tebs is telling me as well as the way that I'm feeling, I know that we are, I think we have reached the end of the possibilities here. We could push ourselves through the drive. I don't think that it's worth it at this point. Tebs is melting over his camera. I am melting over my steering wheel. So we appreciate the pole that you've got going on. And in fact, I'm going to be the one that calls the end of the drive, and I'm going to do so fairly soon. I don't think it's sensible for either of us, and having been out now, I don't believe that we should push things any further. It's not good for us, and it's not good for the equipment. So I appreciate your concern. I know that I don't feel any pressure from any of you to stay out, and I do appreciate that. And we know that when it comes down to it, we can always count on our very loyal viewers to be as supportive as possible. So FC, I'm going to call the drive, and I'm going to call the drive now, just to communicate that through to Jerry and to Kirsty. And we'll be saying a farewell to all of you. I do appreciate you all sticking with us and giving us your support. I hope that you have a wonderful day. I apologize for the brief drive, but I don't think it's sensible for any of us to carry on like this. But we will catch you tomorrow for the sunrise safari, and join us then. We'll have hours to build the anticipation until we next see each other. So we will relish in those and catch you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for your understanding.